right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Brand Builder TV, where we want to show you and teach you and bring the people on that are actually doing it, been there and have done it, and are still doing it. And we're such a big believer in marketing in 2020 that brand loyalty is king because it maps the trust. I am very excited for this episode because we have somebody on this show that I consider the real deal. He is walking the walk, talks the talk, and was a big mentor in my life a few years back. And I consider him a friend, and I'm very, very blessed to consider him a friend, especially where more, for me, it's more important because of where he started, what he went through, and where he's at today, and where he sees himself going. And we're going to chunk that down as always. But let me give you a little overview and context of why I'm so excited about this episode. Dave Meltzer, top executive business coach and keynote speaker, international keynote speaker, CEO and co-founder of Sports One Marketing, and his business partner is NFL Hall of Famer Warren Moon. But that's just the tip of the iceberg of this guy's story. Very, 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 very impressive. So, Dave, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for taking the time. I know you got a lot of things going on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. You know, it's so much fun to see the people that I have elevated and helped become so successful. That's my greatest success, is to elevate others, to elevate myself. And you have done an extraordinary job, Dave, with building a brand and helping people. And those are the three things that we talk about: is make a lot of money, help a lot of people, and have a lot of fun. And I see you doing that. So thanks for having me on.
No, thank you. And just to kind of give everyone that a little context and 30,000 foot view, I know that you started, you were a president of a sports marketing company back in the day. Do you want to kind of share that with us? Kind of where you
Yeah.
you have a pretty
diverse.
Well, it's just a great story, man. It is.
Yeah. Well, I started, my whole goal was just to be rich. I wanted to buy my mom a house and a car.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up with a single mom, 6 kids, and went to law school to be an oil and gas litigator, only because I reverse engineered what was the highest paying job out of law school, and it was an oil and gas litigator. So I went to Tulane University to study that. But ironically, when I graduated, not only did I get a job offer to be an oil and gas litigator, but I got a job offer to sell legal research online in the early 90s, pre-chasm internet, XT computers, 9600 baud modems, dial-up service. Most kids today watching this won't even know what I'm talking about, but it was slow. Anyway, 9 months out of law school, I was a millionaire. I bought my mom a house and a car, and I really branded myself in the technology world, worked not only in the internet space, but went to Sand Hill Road and worked in the middleware space with a company called EveryPath, learned how to raise money, helped and assisted in over $169 million raise with there, and then became CEO of the world's first smartphone. So the first part of my career, although I had a law degree, my mom made me take the bar because she only believes in doctor, lawyer, or failure, always told me that the internet was a fad. But I kept pursuing my potential in that arena and became CEO of the world's first smartphone, first Windows CE device manufactured by Samsung called the PCE phone. Became a multi-millionaire from there, became an investor myself, real estate, stocks, all types of different businesses. And then I became CEO of the most notable sports agency in the world, Lee Steinberg Sports and Entertainment. And there I started surrounding myself with the wrong people and the wrong ideas, and actually went into a downward emotional spiral that caused the financial outcome of being bankrupt, losing over $100 million. Ironically, 2 years before that is when I had my quantum transition in life, my transformational change in life, and started to shift the paradigm of value. Instead of just lying, manipulating, cheating, overselling, back-end selling, I shifted my paradigm about 12 years ago to giving to others and providing value first, being productive and accessible, not only accessible to others, but accessing what I want, all within the context of everything comes through me, not for me, not to me like a victim. And that has changed my life. And About 11 years ago, I spun off Sports One Marketing and founded it with Warren Moon. And in the last 3 years have, moved from just sponsorship and advertising into true media. So I write books, I coach, I speak, podcasts, TV shows, all types of traditional things that now are digital. And that's where I really spend the majority of my time in helping other people help themselves, empowering other people to empower other people to be happy.
I love it. I didn't even realize that before the Lee Steinberg deal, right? I didn't even realize all that, and didn't know any of that, which is, again, really impressive stuff. But you use some comments that are really powerful. Lying, cheating, stealing, right? And you are connecting that with who you were. And I know through the personal development that you've done, man, share with us though how somebody could actually go from that identity to where you are now. Like that, I know that you said it was 2 years in the making, because I'm a big proponent, as you are, believer in the law of attraction, right? What you think about comes about.
Yeah.
But I mean, to make that transition, because they are pretty strong titles.
Yeah, I think the problem is most people are afraid to illuminate the fact that they're liars, cheaters, stealers, oversellers, back-end sellers, manipulators. In fact, I was terrified because I identified when I was 10 years old. My dad left when I was 5, left my mom to work 2 jobs, pack my dinner in a station wagon and fill up turnstiles at the 7-Eleven in order so we could make dinner, And beyond that, my dad was a deadbeat dad. He was a guy who married a girl closer to my age, had a lot of money, never paid his wife any spousal or child support. But I thought he was my hero until he was 10 and he forgot my birthday, which wasn't a big deal until he told me he didn't believe in birthdays, which I realized at that time, and it crushed me, that my dad wasn't my hero, that he was a liar, a cheat, a manipulator, overseller, back-end seller. And then I started realizing, and I was terrified of being that way, but when I was 30, I realized when my dad gave me a jacket with no pockets, and told me it was to remind me that I'm just like him, and to hang that jacket in the closet, not to wear, but to be buried in, because I couldn't take anything with me when I was gone. And that his biggest wish for me as a father would be that I would learn the lessons that he had not practiced, to be honest, to be of service, to be of value. Now, I still work on overselling, back-end selling. It's quantum in my nature. I believe it's in everyone's nature. To varying degrees, people do it all the time, and I process that. So I don't think, any different of myself, other than that I'm practicing and more focused in on not being that way. And I help other people feel comfortable by illuminating the fact that that's part of the ego-based consciousness. And not to offend you, but I'm sure you have lied, stolen, cheated, manipulated, oversold, and back-end sold. And I still catch myself manipulating, overselling, back-end selling. But I just think it's human nature. And I hope I make people feel comfortable with the improvement of, right? I came up with this happiness quotient of, enjoy the consistent everyday, persistent without quit pursuit of your potential, and illuminate the fact that you're human, and forgive yourself so you can forgive others for being human as well. In fact, my dad died last year at 80, and we had an extraordinary relationship because not only had I forgiven him, but more importantly, I'd forgiven myself for being just like him.
I love it. So you leverage really the power of contrast, right?
Absolutely.
And to me, I think that is so overlooked and misunderstood, and truly the power of contrast can catapult you and your life into another dimension. And obviously, that's what you've done. So that's an awesome, just a great thing. It's a great story, and I'm a big believer in today's world, 2020, 21, 22, your vulnerability becomes your credibility, right? You've been, when you've been there and done it, right? That connects, and your story connects with people. And I always say, Dave, I would love to have you go deeper on this. When you understand that you were bad enough to make it through the other side, now it becomes part of who you are, to share that, to help other people get through that. And that's what you do on a daily basis.
You're so right. You know, I love that you talk about invulnerability, creating credibility, because invulnerability is vulnerability, right? Invulnerability and vulnerability. Once you become vulnerable, you become invulnerable because you've taken all the energy out of who you are, and the truth vibrates the fastest, and it makes you more credible. And too many people discount credibility. I always say, first thing I look at every day is the name on my back. Sorry to use a sports analogy, but you know, credibility is everything, because if I'm 100% credible, Dave, I can tell you right now, wire me $1 million and I'll give you 2 million at the end of the year. You won't have a second question if I was 100% credible. I'm not 100% credible, but I'm working towards being as credible as possible by being as vulnerable as possible and allowing myself to share those experiences to inspire other people, motivate them. But I also became a student of it. You know, one of the things that you and I both discussed as we work together over the years is that it's just not a conscious thing. You know, people really work on what they think, what they say, what they do, this law of attraction. But it goes far beyond the conscious of what we think, say, and do. It goes far beyond the relationship capital that I have and the situational knowledge, experience, and dummy tax that I share. It goes to the subconscious. There's 40,000 of the same thoughts that are in your brain every day, creating neural pathways, disciplines, habits that are also sending a signal to your unconscious competency. You have a DNA, you have chromosomes, you have an epigenetic layer of that DNA that activates the DNA, that creates a frequency. And I believe that the law of attraction starts first with what you think, say, do, and believe, because it goes to your subconscious and creates the disciplines and habits that creates the frequency. The frequency is what calls upon what we can't understand, that goes beyond what we think, say, do, and believe. It's the reason people think, say, do, and believe. And you were one of these guys when I met you. Think, say, do, believe, all the right things, but you were getting the same results. Mm-hmm. You had to realize that those things that you think, say, do, and believe effectuate your chromosomes, your DNA, your quantum memory, your personality traits, characteristics, obsessions, and addictions that have evolved over the time that I've known you, that create a new frequency, a stronger signal, a wider spectrum, a clearer message in order to attract through that frequency exactly what already exists, because everything already exists, but it allows you to clear the interference and corrosion that you were creating to that connection. Because instead of thinking and saying and doing and thinking that's what's attracting, no, that's what's creating the frequency. The frequency is what attracts. And I teach people as a student, as a physics student, about time, about space, about matter, and about that energy, that frequency, that vibration. And I break it down mathematically for people. So it's not just woo-woo BS, you know, that word behind you on your poster, but it's actual, to me, quantum and mathematical in its nature, about why we want to put the highest vibration or the most positive activities out into the universe. But most importantly, it doesn't go out into the universe till it comes through us.
I love that. One of the things that, and I don't even know if you remember this, but one of the first times we ever spoke and had a coaching call, you gave me, actually it was the first time, and you asked me what I had going on, right? And I just threw up on you, right? I said, and then after about 10 minutes of me telling you everything I have going on and all the action I was taking and the massive action that you just said, well, you're doing all, you sound like you're doing all the right things. You sound like you're moving in the right direction, but you got to just, instead of slowing down, you have to calm down. And I remember that, like, that's what you felt. That's what you read. And I still take that with me today, that I think about that advice is, instead of it. So let me wrap this up in a really nice tight bow. What I really learned from that was the difference between massive action and inspired action, because that inspired action comes from here. And that's why I think when you see somebody like a Gary V, yourself, right? People from the outside look at you guys and they say, man, how do you just keep going? Like, how come that candle doesn't die? Why doesn't that flame go out? Because it's inspired action, because it really means something to you inside. So that was definitely a huge aha moment for me way back when we first, God, I think that was 2016 maybe, that we spoke. And that was that, instead of just, you don't have to slow down. You just have to calm down. And I think that's so important. But I'd love for you to share what you guys do at Sports One Marketing. Who is your ideal client?
So, you know, it's interesting because Sports One Marketing is a platform. It's a platform that is based off of two different assets. The first being relationship capital. Between Warren Moon and I, we are 1 degree of separation from almost everyone now in the world. That's how powerful the multi-billion-dollar industry of sports is. And so being able to leverage not only Warren's background and relationships, but my background and relationships, and that has actually shifted over the time that you've known me. It used to be primarily Warren was the bug light to attract the deal flow in which to monetize for purpose or cause. Now I'm the bug light in which to attract. And because, you know, entrepreneurship is actually, according in the realm of monetization, entrepreneurship is more powerful than Hall of Famers. You know, a 62 Hall of Famer has nothing on Gary Vee, that's for sure. No. And Gary's one of my friends and a mentor of mine, because we both share that belief in activity. Productivity, accessibility, and gratitude are the lenses in which we study our calendar, study time. We both understand time, understand that exact message that we talked about 4 years ago is that Dave DALEY is connected to the most powerful source of energy, light, and motivation and inspiration ever created. And Dave DALEY is active. Man, he is powerful, he's active, he is wearing himself to the bone. But instead of clearing the connection through focus, confidence, balance, and knowing the values, by clearing the connection, the interference, he was creating more interference to the inspiration that he was connected to. He's creating more blockages, more corrosion to that connection, instead of focusing all that will and power with a lens of productivity. How much value is he providing? A lens of accessibility. How accessible is he to others to be of service and to provide value? But also, how's he accessing what he wants? There was a blockage, interference about an energy that you weren't worthy of receiving what you really wanted. And then even moreover, just always working on the lens of gratitude, right? Looking upon everything as abundant and everything as thankful. It's something, all three of those lenses I work on every day, and I try to get back into that kaleidoscope, those three different colors, when I start seeing things in ego-based consciousness. And Gary and I have these discussions because he does it personally and I do it personally, is that we are probably two of the most productive, accessible, and gracious people you'll ever meet. We're probably two of the most active people that you'd ever meet. But just to make everyone feel comfortable out there, we both live in ego-based consciousness too much of the time. If we could, our journey to our potential is still so great that that's what keeps us fired up, is that everyone sees the best of Dave Meltzer or the best of Gary Vee. Well, there's a lot better Dave Meltzer to come, and there's a lot better Gary Vee to come. And I don't know if I'm 10% of the way or 80% of the way, but I know that the 90% or the 20% that I still need to go excites me every day to keep fighting to clear that connection so that I can truly utilize the power that puts enough power in my pinky to light the entire Orange County airport, right? I mean, our bodies are filled with so much power. So how much energy am I really using? If I have that much power in my pinky, how much energy am I really interfering and corroding? I'd say I'm probably about 10% of the way there. And that's the difference that I see your progression over these last 4 years, my progression over the last 4 years, and my mentor, Gary Vee's progression over the last 4 years. Just keep clearing that connection and the shit will come.
I love that. And I was going to ask, so now I want to get into the practical, right? Because here's why I'm excited to have you on, because you embody the combination of the mystic and the practical, right? And here's why I say that, because I know what you've built, what you've crashed to the ground, and then what you rebuilt, right? And that's just the truth. And so when you can combine that mystical, and when I mean mystical is the universe, the energy, as you know, and the practical, because you do the practical on a daily basis. One of the things too, I'm going to throw out there too, I've witnessed personally, is your ability to make your day the most effective. And I tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think that's such a huge priority for you. You know, obviously because you are so busy, but leveraging the other people, right?
Active, not busy. Busy means unavailable, right? I'm active. I love when you
Give us the definition. Break that down for us.
Yeah, so active means I'm producing as much as I can during the day. I'm a student of my calendar. I'm studying it. Studying is different than looking. Studying entails three things. One, paying attention, which means looking. Mm-hmm. Two, giving it intention, which is that, so attention is pragmatic, intention is mystic. And then that equals the truly mystic, which is the coincidence. It's the combination of the pragmatic and the mystical. Attention plus intention equals coincidences. Coincidences is a mathematical occurrence in my mind. It's two angles coinciding perfectly to create another angle. That's exactly what happens when you put attention with a lens of productivity, accessibility, and gratitude on your intention, knowing with clarity, balance, and focus what you want. I'm not a big why guy. I think there's billions of dollars wasted on teasing people that they don't know their why. I think everybody in the world already knows their why. It's to help somebody or something. It's the problem is most people hide behind the why because they don't know the goddamn what. And they're too afraid. They have too much interference and corrosion to the connection to actually do the pragmatic work to find out what the hell we want. And they're too afraid to say, hey, I'm going to infuse my intention of love into what I want, even though this may not seem like what I want. I'm going to find the light in it and enjoy it and learn to love it. Right? People, my wife tells me, you're so lucky. You've always loved what you do. I was like, wait a second. Nobody loves law school. Nobody loves selling legal research online. Nobody really loves being a CEO. I didn't love being a sports agent or running the most notable. Everybody else loved the idea about it. It was still a job, an activity I get paid for. I'd rather be hanging out with my kids. But what did I do? I learned to love what I do. I learned to love it. I changed through the lens of productivity, accessibility, and gratitude so that everything from taking the trash out to driving my kids to school to making the lunches and dinners, all the way to running a business. I'll give you two things that I learned to love, which is really hard: employees and overhead. Having God told me, you're going to curse somebody, let them think you love them, be like, hey, Dave DALEY, man, I only want the best for you. I hope your business grows so much that you have tons of employees and lots of office space with lots of things in it. Right. I just cursed you. I even learned to love that. So I think it's really important to understand what you're talking about. It's the biggest conflict that people don't know because they won't believe in both. They'll only believe in one or the other. Number one, we live in a pragmatic world. The currency of this world, this lower vibrating world, the currency, which means an energy, an object of energy that you put into the flow to attract what you want, is money. Right? You got a green card, you can go on Amazon and attract what you want. You got a gold card, you could attract more. You got a platinum card, you could attract more. You got the black card, you can attract everything. Now, that realm is real. You can't sit at home on your mom's couch, high, sick, broke, dreaming what you want like a Ferrari. Very rarely will it come. You have to vibrate really, really fast in order to effectuate that in the pragmatic world, like winning the lottery. Somebody asked me the other day, you can meditate and manifest all this, why don't you just win the lottery? I can't vibrate that fast. You are talking about very specific mathematical things that need to occur, and awareness that is so great in order to understand what horse is going to win or what number or what team's going to win. But the second world or realm that I live in, and I live in both, is this utopic world, the mystic world, the woo-woo world, the spiritual world. And guess what? Faith is the object of energy in which we put into the flow to attract what we want. What is faith? What we think, what we say, what we do, what we believe, the unconscious competencies of our personality traits, characteristics, obsessions, and addictions, the frequency that has a strength, a spectrum, and a clear signal. That's faith. And faith is the currency. And if you have green card faith, you're only going to get so much in the universe. If you got gold card, you'll get more. Platinum card, you get more. But if you got black card faith, everything will come to you at the right way at the perfect time. Everything will come to you. And I live in both worlds. I can work with, anyway, I call it activity I get paid for is work to me. But I can utilize my time in this pragmatic world to make a lot of money and then transform it over into my faith to help a lot of people and have a lot of fun. If you're not living in both worlds, you don't get it.
1000%. I love that. And the other thing, when we're talking about the practical world, you just proved to us in a statement a few minutes ago about the changes and the difference and the evolution from 2004 to 2020. You now have a company, multi-million dollar company, right? That back a few years ago, before you really start to focus on your personal brand, your business partner brought other things to the table. That has shifted, right? So Dave, talk about, now in our audience, we're speaking to small to medium business owners, right? Commission salespeople, right? How to rise above the noise in your industry, because I'm a big believer like you are. It's not what you do, but how you do it. So share with us the power of your personal brand, why you're putting so much time, effort, money, attention to your personal brand.
I will tell you why. One word, ambassadorship. It's a word that most people don't understand with branding. What most people are trying to do with branding is get following. Following can move, shift, and lose determined upon the mediums or platforms that they're on. So if, Vine dies by the vine and Instagram starts, you lose all your following. Ambassadorship grows at extraordinary exponential rate. I'm on a 20-year plan for my ambassadorship. I started building my brand 3 years ago, wrote a book, speak around the world, have TV show, podcast, all those great things. But my goal, and still is my objective, and what I help other people do, is I said to myself, if I can get 2 ambassadors in year 1, that's 2 people that will get me 2 people every year to scream at the top of a mountain how Dave Meltzer changed their life and yell to the bottoms of the valley and really live their life and elevate themselves. 2 people a year. In 5 years, I'll have 64 ambassadors. In 10 years, I'll have 2,000 ambassadors. In 15 years, I'll have 64,000 ambassadors. In 20 years, Dave Meltzer will have 2 million ambassadors. That's not followers, that's ambassadors. And it just goes from there. And we've never had the opportunity to reach 4.2 billion people ever before. Right? When we wanted to build, we built them like Bob Proctor built them, and Jack Canfield built them, and all my mentors built them. I'm at a perfect age where I learned from the guys who were standing on the stage, and then I had enough technology and media and marketing and advertising and sponsorship background to create the stage theory that said, hey guys, you've been standing on stages with 200 people to 2,000 people and monetizing it. I can stand on a stage with 2 people and get to 2 million people a day, without traveling around the world, without doing these things. And that's why I created the stage theory that said, make sure you capture what you do, amplify it with the right frequency, strength of signal, spectrum, and clarity, and perpetuate it so that as your brand grows, more and more ambassadors keep watching stuff that was from 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 10 years ago.
I love that, Dave. Let's really wrap that up in a nice tight bow for all these practical people, right? Your ambassador, what you just shared with the ambassador, it's compound interest. Right? And you cannot argue. Listen, you can argue, and you are the guy to back me on this. You can argue till the cows come home on almost anything in life. But Dave, can you argue compound interest?
I live my whole life now. I wish I would have lived by compound interest in my 20s and invested that way. The problem is time. There's two problems with time. Number one, when we're young, we focus in on it, right? And so everything behind us goes fast, but everything in front of us is so long. The problem, there's a reason I put the clock in the elevator in elevator pitch. You can't see it on the screen, but the minute the eyes go up to the clock, I know they've lost. They've created interference, void, shortages, and obstacles to what they want. So what happens is everybody's putting their eye on the clock, and we have to understand time. If we could understand time as infinity, like I believe it is, then I can create a 20-year plan. Then I can believe in compound interest. The problem with compound interest is the big problem that I tell with people is that in 10 years, no matter what you want to do, most people are 25% of the way there, and 99% of the people quit because they're 25% of the way there. But what they're not looking at is the acceleration and growth in the 10 years. Then it only takes them 5 years to get to 50%, and then 99% of the 1% quit at 15 years. And the ones that remain, the 1% of the 1% that remain, simply because they understand compound interest in time. So we can wrap this up in this bow for these people. If you understand compound interest in time, in 2.5 years, you'll be 100% of the way there. You'll stop voting for whatever everyone else wanted for you. You'll stop listening to everybody else and manifesting what they wanted for you. And you'll go from being snickered at, laughed at, and scowled at to applauded, where everyone's like, oh, I knew you could do it. I knew, you're so lucky. And then beyond those 17.5 years, in half the amount of time, in 1 year and 3/4, you're 200% of the way there. Then 7/8, 400% of the way there. 7/16, 7/32. We all know compound interest. Pretty soon, every day you're doubling, and now you're the richest man on earth, like Jeff Bezos in 25 years, when everybody was laughing and snickering and scowling at him when he 25 years ago said, I'm gonna be the richest man on earth, make over $100 billion. I'm starting a bookstore in my garage. Come on now. This is exactly what I'm talking about.
I love it. I love it. I love bringing those rants out in you, my man. I love it.
I want this for so many people. I get frustrated. I get fired up going, it's so easy. It's math.
It's exactly, again, it's bringing that, right? You're able to bring that mystic and the practical and combine it, because without it, I remember Bob Proctor said back in 2007, I was down in Florida with him, and he said, any program that doesn't have personal development in it is incomplete, right? It's incomplete. And when you as a great example, because of what you shared, when you didn't have that personal development in your life, things started to go south with you. Then once you started to combine both of them, the world opened up, right? It became just amazing.
I was in bed, living in a pragmatic world, wanting to be rich. Money bought me happiness. Money bought me love. And when I lived and built my dream home, dream wife, dream kids, dream everything, for the first time in my life, I wasn't happy, because I wasn't focused on that personal development. I had no idea about the mystic side of it. And thank goodness I didn't lose the pragmatic Dave Meltzer. Making money is the first thing I tell people to do, because we live in this vibration. Yeah. And I teach them to do it by creating value, by being productive, accessible, and gracious. That's as simple as it gets. Then I take them into the laws of physics or mystics or attraction or the theoretical or utopic world of energy and love. I get that, but Marianne Williamson is not going to win president. Donald Trump's the president, and he's purely pragmatic, because the presidency, our political institutions, are simply pragmatic in their nature. That's why so many people, it resonates in that position. Marianne Williamson is only in the utopic. There has to be a combination, which is why I'm looking for a president that has both.
Love it. I love it. So Dave, first of all, thank you so much for really taking the time. I mean that, because I know how busy, or I have an idea how busy you are on the back end. Where can we find you?
Just remember my name. So at David Meltzer. Google David Meltzer, YouTube's David Meltzer, even my new TikTok at David Meltzer is coming up. My website, though, is my first initial last name, dmeltzer.com. The guy who owns David Meltzer won't give it up, so I am dmeltzer.com. If you Google David Meltzer, it'll all come to you.
Love it. And you can find us on all the platforms on our podcast. And please jump on our YouTube channel and subscribe if you're getting this value. And we will let everyone know when we publish this. Again, man, thank you so much, and have an awesome holiday, you and your family.
Like I say, the double D right here, right there. Come listen to Dave Daly. This fearless is bullshit. I agree with that so much.
Thank you, pal.